This is Things I Need to Learn in Life I Didn't Learn in School, covering everything we should know as adults that got glossed over in our classrooms. With your host, Wave News anchor, Dawne Gee.
Thank you for joining us for Things I Need to Learn in Life I Didn't Learn in School. I'm Dawne Gee. I'm always happy to have you. And today, we are learning about holiday blues. I am so glad to have you here. Please introduce yourself and talk about what we are so lucky to have you do at Norton Hospital.
Sure. My name is Dr. Katie Hopkins. I am a licensed psychologist, and I not only treat children and families in primary care with Norton Children's Medical Group, but I also serve as the community medical director for Norton's Institute for Health Equity, really aiming to help folks from across the community gain access not only to quality behavioral mental health, but also help come and spread the good word about how we can take care of ourselves emotionally, and just help folks know that they can gain access to quality care even if they're from home by listening to podcasts like this.
So Dr. Hopkins, are we doing better? I mean, mental health care, we shove it in a box and we don't take it. No, we shove it in a box, we put it under the bed, we put a big comforter over the bed, and we don't take it out until we think everybody is sleeping and the house is quiet. We hide that. Yes. We hide it, and then we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Are we doing better?
I actually think that we are. I think one of the silver linings of COVID is that we started to have a really large national conversation around mental health. And even in communities that historically had a lot of stigma around help seeking, men seeking therapy.
Because you got to be strong.
Exactly. Black and brown folks seeking, frankly, access to quality therapy in a lot of these communities have been difficult to find. But I've noticed that as a national conversation has really exploded around mental health and self-care, that more folks are talking within their homes, within their church communities, within their neighborhoods about going and working with a therapist, looking for a therapist. They're telling each other where they saw a great therapist. So that's really helping destigmatize, and because of that, more people are getting help, which is awesome.
I wanted you to come in because we're at a time, I believe, and you'll help me with this, where depression, anxiety, or blues may creep in. And I say at a time because now here we're in that time, like I don't get off from work until 8 o'clock. When I get off from work, it is pitch black.
Yeah.
I mean, darkness comes early. Darkness comes really early. And some people are really affected by the grayness, the clouds, the lack of sunshine, how dark it gets so early. But now we're in holidays too.
I know. So we got the double whammy of not as much sunlight, which certainly we know, just lack of vitamin D can really put us in the dumps.
That's like a medical thing.
Yeah, that's a medical thing, right? And so not having access to daylight really can bring us down and make us feel sad. And then you put on there a lot of the baggage that many folks have around holidays, or even just the stress and pressure that we all are being fed around making holidays into this
making
big
holidays
thing.
bright.
Yes, yeah, it was funny today. Today happens to be the day after Halloween, and we get in the car, and I'm taking my kids to school, and they get to play DJ in the morning, and so my son was up to choose the first song of the morning, and all he had to play were the first 5 notes of the Ronettes singing Sleigh Bell. But I was like, okay, we're in Christmas season now.
But stations have already started playing Christmas.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think for a lot of people, the reason whether you agree with celebrating Christmas starting on November 1st or you don't, the reality is I think that putting aside kind of the commercial reasons for that, I think people are drawn to listening to Christmas music so early because it does help them feel better. It does put them in in what they say, what they feel like is the holiday spirit as quickly as possible, So people are putting up their trees right now, I imagine.
I have a friend who already has his tree up.
Yes.
I don't get it, but you know what? You got to live it like you live it,
Yes,
not like I live it.
exactly.
And my mom gets mad because sometimes I don't put up a tree. Then I come home and there's a tree up, and I'm like, how'd that tree get up?
They're just trying to spread the
like my
joy.
mother has a key to my home. That's how,
Well, and so I think that speaks to what the holidays can be for so many people, but the reality is for so many other people, it isn't associated with joy. There's a lot of pain, there's loss. So if you've experienced loss in your life, if you've lost a family member or a close friend, or if you've gone through a recent breakup, it's hard not to be reminded of them during these key moments that we're used to sharing with loved ones. And so that can bring a lot of sadness. Not to mention that for some people, getting together with extended family is stressful.
Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to break it down a few things.
Yes.
Family gatherings.
Yes.
I love, okay, so my family gathers every minute of the day.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you.
Constant.
We gather. Hey, saw a butterfly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, come on over. We're going to have dinner.
Yeah.
My family gather. And it's just wonderful. It's not like that for everyone.
No.
Break down, what do I do if I know I have a family gathering? I do want to be part of it. I don't want to just break away. How do I, number one, not totally stress myself out before it, and then how do I make it through that event?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that we need to manage expectations a little bit. And a lot of times the stress associated with family gatherings has to do with us having high expectations that it could be wonderful.
Don't expect so
with
much.
high expectations that it might be horrible, right? It's like we either think it's going to be magical or we think it's going to be so dysfunctional food's going to fly. And I think just managing our expectations and accepting that it might be challenging is a good place to start. And then also taking care of yourself leading up to that time. So making sure that you are still connecting with people that you do enjoy being around, that don't cause you stress in the days leading up to it, getting lots of support that way, getting lots of good rest, going out in the sun so you can get some of that vitamin D. Also, it's not a terrible thing to have boundaries. And you can have boundaries even when you're with other people. So just setting expectations around things like, particularly this year, there may be some stress associated in the holidays because it's an election year. So saying things like, I'm really looking forward to having Thanksgiving dinner for everyone. Can we all agree that we're not going to talk about the election? So setting a boundary, or can we all agree that we are not going to talk about this particular topic that seems to be sensitive for everybody? Another thing is, and I think a lot of people think that this helps manage their stress, but it doesn't, drinking. Really monitoring alcohol intake during the holidays in general, but at family gatherings. Alcohol is a depressant.
We don't think so, though.
We don't
think it's
so.
a happy
we think
fire.
It's a lubricant, right?
Yeah.
Like we think that it's something that helps us get through uncomfortable situations, when actually we know that it can worsen our moods and also lower our inhibition, so we're more likely to say things that we regret. Or we'll have a harder time controlling what's up in our thoughts and it not coming out of our mouth and then saying something that later we're like, oh, I'm not sure if that landed very well.
Is it best to make a plan if something goes wrong? Like, okay, if this happens, then I'm just going to nicely X, Y, Z.
Absolutely. I mean, it's okay to have a plan like, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. Or excuse me, I'm going to get more green beans. So it's totally okay for you to have mini exit plans if in the middle of a conversation it's veering towards something that is too stressful for you. or if you're having a conversation with someone and it's starting to get tense, or they're saying something that's really bringing up a lot for you, saying, hold that thought, I need to go to the bathroom, or I need to refresh my drink, or I need to get more green beans, to help kind of cut that tension for a second so that you then can gather your thoughts about what you'd like to say next and if you'd like to return to that conversation.
What do you do if you're one of those folks that have to be away from family and friends? Here at WAVE, we have a lot of kids that, you know, they're in a different city. They can't make it home. So I always tell them they can come eat with my family, but I'm not their family.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So.
I know it's really hard, and you know, I'm actually going through this year because my dad is in a nursing home this year, and this is the first year that he's in a nursing home, and historically we all spend Christmas in our family cabin in Eastern Kentucky, and he is always there with us. So this year I'm really like, how am I going to continue to include him in our celebrations, while also just recognizing that the sadness of his absence. And so figuring out ways that you can still include your loved ones who can't be there in traditions, whether that be, during COVID we did this, right? A lot of us, at our Thanksgiving during COVID, we had grandparents on FaceTime on multiple laptops, you know, and so that's one of the wonderful things about, you know, the ability to digitally communicate with our family members. If we're not going to be able to see them at all during the holiday season, first of all, establishing a time that you're going to meet virtually or have a phone call. Sometimes with our family members that we're not able to see over the holidays, we make a plan for January when it's less stressful and it's easier for them to get away. So you can work out a lot of things. And then certainly there have been times, you know, one year my husband and I were overseas during the holidays, and we were so grateful for the community that was there to include us in their holiday traditions. For me, I know that some families or some people who are away from home during the holidays think, you know what, I'll just skip Christmas this year. I'm going to treat today like it's any other day. And so they don't make plans, even though historically they usually have a very bustling holiday season. And it ends up backfiring on them.
I was going to say, is that okay?
Yeah, no, I think that I think that a lot of people who choose that path think that it's going to be easy to do that, right? So it's like, I'll just act like it's any other Thursday and not Thanksgiving, or I'll act like it's just any other day and not Christmas Day. And you can't escape the fact of the calendar, right? Not to mention society telling you what day it is. And so it ends up backfiring for so many of those folks, and they end up feeling even more sad and alone. So I encourage folks that are away from home to reach out to friends, reach out to extended family who are close to you, and let them know. We lived in a community, we were living in India one Christmas where they don't have a huge celebration of Christmas. So we used it as an opportunity to share that tradition. Same for Thanksgiving, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving there. But those are two holidays that were really important to us. So we hosted gatherings at our home with our Indian friends and invited them over to share our traditions. And it was a lovely, memorable holiday, even though it was hard to be away from our families.
So as we kind of begin to wrap things up, if I am, let's start with anxious. And I'm not even really sure how you define anxious. You might want to do that.
Yeah.
What's the best thing for me to do?
Yeah, so anxiety is an important feeling, right? So all feelings are important. If we were just talking about the blues.
And feelings are just feelings.
Feelings are just
They're
feelings,
not good,
right?
they're not bad. Don't judge yourself,
Yeah.
don't be hard on yourself, right?
They are there for a reason, and we need to pay attention to them. And if we ignore sadness and anxiety during the holidays, we're not...
Or any time.
or any time. We are not doing ourselves any justice. So just like the blues and sadness are our brain's way of saying, you need to be connected with others right now. We feel less sad when we're with other people. especially if they're the right people. So sadness, we never feel less sad alone. Anxiety, similarly, is our brain's way of saying, pay attention, plan, prepare. Sometimes we feel anxious when we don't have control over what's going to happen next. So when we don't know what to expect at a holiday gathering, when we don't know how a certain interaction is going to go because we can't predict another person's behavior, that can be very anxiety provoking. We can start to feel uncomfortable, we can start having headaches and stomach aches, a lot of racing thoughts, so replaying possible scenarios in our heads over and over again. So just the very basics of managing anxiety have to include the foundational strategies of eating well, sleeping well, and moving our bodies. There is nothing you can do better for anxiety than doing those three things. And that's really hard during the holidays when we're so busy and the weather is drizzly and cold, and but those are really essential. And then listening to your worries and thinking, how can I be better prepared for this? Is there something that I can control? I can control what I do, how I interact with the family, how I schedule my time. So allowing ourselves not to get overcommitted and overbooked, that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety during the holidays. Manage, I can't control what other people's expectations are, but I can control what mine are. So that can go a long way in helping reduce our stress and worry.
At 62, I've learned to do something that has literally changed my life. A deep breath.
Yeah.
That, honestly, it's huge.
It is.
I stop. Like when I'm anxious, I don't care what's going on. I don't care if the turkey is on fire.
Yeah.
I just stop.
It's fundamental.
Deep breath.
It's fundamental. And it's so funny because, I work with a lot of teenagers. And that's one of the first things that we always teach teenagers is like, stop and take some deep breaths, right? And teenagers often roll their eyes because they're like, okay, here comes the coping skills. And it's like, no, but there's a reason why we're teaching you this really fundamental skill. When you're worried, you tend to actually hold your breath. That's why you get headaches.
I hold my breath.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And so really even just noticing that you're just noticing your breath. What am I doing with my breath right now? Oh, I'm holding it.
I hold my breath. When I exercise, I hold my breath.
Yeah.
Why? I'm like, why am I holding my breath?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm holding my breath.
Who knows? It's a lot of different reasons why we do that, and some of it is about our worries. It's like, think about just like the metaphor of holding our breath. We're like waiting for something to happen, right? It's like we're waiting. We hold our breath when we are excited about something. We hold our breath when we're in anticipation. And we hold our breath when we're nervous because it's like we're like trying to stop time in a way. But actually breathing is going to help us literally move through it. So, we have to keep that going.
So crazy.
I
do.
I
hold my breath.
We all do it.
Okay, we'll end on this. Depression.
Yeah.
I worry about this more than ever before. Someone in my life that I had spent 15 years or more of my life with, my ex committed suicide. He hung himself.
Yeah.
And I blew my mind.
Yeah.
I had just talked to him.
Yeah.
Didn't hear it, didn't expect it. Yeah. And it knocked my children and I just and he didn't leave a note. I'm very angry because I would have wished he would have said, this is why
you needed an explanation.
I want an explanation. I felt like we all deserved an explanation. If you're going to do this, then we should know why.
Yeah. It's
I don't know if that's being selfish.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That has really gone up. People's suicide.
Rates of suicide have gone up, and I think it really certainly that we go through periods in time. Unfortunately, suicide has been a reality since we've been walking on the earth. And certain things, social factors can drive that. But there's really an epidemic of loneliness.
Is that what it is?
I think for a lot of people that does. I mean, again, remember what I was talking about, where sadness is that feeling that should drive us to be connected with others, or the antidote to sadness is connection. But, I think that we live in a world right now where we believe that we're hyper-connected because of social media, but we're actually less connected with people like this, in relationship, looking at each other, looking each other in the eye. And so even in relationships where people are talking to each other, they still have lost the ability to remain connected. So I think that that's part of it. I think it's also that there's just a lot going on in our world right now that can feel like such a heavy burden. And we get a lot of messages around it not being hopeful. So, I tend to lean into optimism and hope wherever I can find it. But some people have trouble getting oriented to that, either because temperamentally that's just not their orientation, or they're depressed and their depression is tricking them into thinking that what they're thinking is real. Right? Like, that's the biggest misnomer when I'm working with depressed folks, is this belief that the thoughts in their head are facts. So their thoughts of, this is never going to get better.
There's a saying, the most dangerous place to be is inside your own thoughts, or something like that. I wish I could remember what it said.
Yeah, but it is. It's because thoughts are not facts. It's like we have thoughts all the time that come and go, but when we are depressed or anxious, we tend to have a more negative view of ourselves, of other people, and of the world. And we need, through relationship with other people, to remind us of what other reality is possible. To push back on those thoughts and say, let's actually look at what the reality of your life is. Of course, your life can always get better, always. And it's hard because suicide for most people is impulsive. It's an impulsive act. It is not something that is necessarily planned for a long period of time. Something totally minuscule can trigger that. And that's what makes it so hard for people who are survivors of other suicide, or mental health practitioners, to figure out what could we have done differently. It's hard when impulsivity plays a role, because that is hard to intervene on. One of the things that I say when I'm working with a family where we know that they're suicidal, so they're having those thoughts, is people rarely kill themselves in front of other people. So they rarely take their own lives when they're with others. Typically, they do it alone. So if someone is struggling with depression and suicide, the first thing you have to do is make sure that they're spending time with other people, that they're with their friends, that they're with their family, that people are just spending time. But there are so many people who have, like this, what you've shared, it's like you had no way of knowing, right? Mm-mm. And perhaps your relationship with him at that point wouldn't have been one where you were seeing him every day, right? Mm-mm. And so it does, unfortunately, put the burden on the person who's having those thoughts to be able to know that if they connect with other people, people that do make them feel good, that can help them view things in the future as hopeful, that can remind them of the things that they can be grateful for, fostering and nurturing those relationships while helping to protect them from maybe unhealthy relationships that they have in their life, that can really help,
So
them.
We'll end with, if someone is depressed, mm-hmm. what do they do?
Well, certainly. So very basically, if you're feeling depressed, remind yourself that your depression is not you. I love that movie Inside Out, because it is a really good basic way of teaching.
Even for adults.
Even for adults, that our moods are not us. It's like they're visitors, and we can greet them. And we can think of depression like we do a sad friend. If we had a sad friend come and spend time with us, and we heard about all of their sadness, we would do everything to meet them with compassion, empathy, and remind them of all the great things that they have. We can do that when depression visits us. We can say, I welcome you into my home, but I'm also going to remind you of all the wonderful things that you have. And I see you, and I can hold space for you, and I can be here with your sadness, but also I'm not going to let you wallow. So certainly if you're just feeling depressed, reaching out and connecting with others, certainly connecting with a mental health provider can be really helpful too if you have access to that. But also just your friends and your natural supports are just as important, if not more important, because they're the folks that you can call in the middle of the night and that you can spend all weekend with and do all of those things. If you're having thoughts of wanting to end your life, that's where I want you to take that really seriously. Just like you would if you tripped and fell and started bleeding from your head, you would know, okay, this is urgent. I see blood on my hands, I need to go to the ER. If you're having thoughts of ending your life, it is similarly urgent. We have a wonderful national resource, which is 988, which is our national suicide hotline. Easy to remember, and really you can call that number even if you're just having thoughts. And you can get connected immediately with support. And it's actually local support. So the national phone number connects you with local support to help you get immediate confidential assistance and help you problem solve to figure out what you need right in that moment. And that could include having you go to the emergency room or a mental health crisis facility, or it could just include talking to that person.
And they changed that line.
They did.
Specifically because they felt like it wasn't
Yeah, we all
getting
remember
that
when it was like
urgent help.
call 188,
Yeah.
And now it's like 988.
And you get help.
And you get help right away. Yeah.
Right. Did we forget anything? Because I feel like this is such an important topic.
I think one of the things that helps get me through the holidays is trying to remove myself from the commercial activities that are surrounding them and remind
It's so
me,
commercialized.
It's really hard,
to
right?
it.
And I'll be the first to say that I enjoy, like I can get into it, right? Like I love giving gifts,
right?
I love all the, making cookies and doing all
and
of
all the
those
Christmas
things,
shows
right?
on TV.
Yeah, exactly. I love all of that, but let's also remind ourselves about what the different holidays actually mean to us in terms of what they mean as traditions and as rituals, regardless of your religion and regardless of what you celebrate during the holidays. Thinking about Thanksgiving, for example, for me, there's lots of complex discussions around the meaning of Thanksgiving. But in our household, it gives us a wonderful opportunity to really focus and meditate on gratitude.
Yeah.
Right?
Gratefulness.
In Christmas or the holiday seasons, Christmas, Hanukkah, Ramadan, Diwali, which was just this week, thinking about the return of hope and light, right? That's solstice. Those are all of those holidays are about, first of all, going through a period of being without. So acknowledging what you have even when you have very little, followed by a period of celebrating the return of abundance. Whether that be, hope is on the horizon with the new year, or longer days are coming.
More light.
Yeah, exactly. And so just really boiling down, what do these holidays mean to us, whether it be our spiritual traditions, our family traditions, our own just... the strengths that we have and our values within us, we can connect with even, whether we're baking cookies or not,
right.
or watching The Grinch on TV.
Right. How do people get in touch with you again?
Yeah, so certainly you can contact Norton healthcare, to get connected with any of our great behavioral health services. We have behavioral health services increasingly available to folks across the lifespan at Norton Healthcare, both in our specialty practices and in our primary care. So that's the best way to find us.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Mental health is so important, and we have to take care of ourselves and each other, and because there's so much to be grateful for.
There is.
Thank
There
you.
is, including having me on, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, so again, holiday blues, if we see them, we recognize them, and we just talk to them.
Yeah, talk to them. Say, I see you.
I see you.
Yeah, I welcome you into my home,
Yeah.
but set a boundary.
And then you know, bye-bye. It's good to have you.
Time for you to go. Yeah.
It's been good having you too. And again, always just learning something that we can use in life. Things I need to learn in life I didn't learn in school. We're always happy to have you. I'm Dawne Gee, and thank you again for joining us this time.